Welcome to The Current by TreasureCoast.com, where we discuss interesting people, places, and happenings on Florida's Treasure Coast.
And so it was I'm excited to have a conversation and why don't you, maybe we can start by you just talking a little bit about who you are and your background and your candidacy for Martin County.
Okay. Well, yes, my name is Althea Wiley, and I've been a resident of Martin County for I'm born and raised here, 60 years. Been here. This has been my home. And I've raised six children. I have nine grandchildren. My youngest child is 39, I believe it is. She's 39,
Oh, God
you
bless
know.
you.
So I was homemaker for all 30 of those years. So, and I started out as cooking, learning to cook. So that's how I became a chef, private chef, and had a catering business. Also opened a couple of restaurants here in Martin County. And then I went and started real estate. It's something real estate, and actually going back to school was one of my goals. My bucket list, and of course, raising children, I had to stop and start, stop and start. But those were my
Right.
goals to become a realtor, and it took me a while, because that test is something to reckon with. But I did it, and
No.
I was started being involved in the out within the community because the community was not connected to things that are actually happening, whether it's the city or the county. So my thing was to bring the information to them so that they can understand, so we won't have the excuse of we didn't know. That's how it actually started. And also to highlight just everyday people in the community. We have authors, we have people that are actually doing things, but they're not seen, they're not heard. And that's how I started doing as you're doing, having a podcast called What's Going On in Conversation with Althea. And that's what started me actually out in the community being connected. If there was an issue, people started calling me to investigate or help them to navigate through certain issues. So that's how I actually started out in the
Wow.
community.
That's really that's cool. You know what? I did know, maybe it was through another uh interview or podcast or something, or news channel, that you had six children, and
Hmm.
that's amazing. We have four, and it's like we're drinking from a water hose. So it's like I got mad, just unbelievable props
Yeah.
to you for like being able to do
Right.
that and to balance everything, and then to
Yeah.
jump
But they're
into
all
now,
grown.
jumping into
Yeah.
right. Well, that's the thing too, is now you're jumping into, you know potentially public service at a different level. What so what made you, what was it, kind of a natural flow from kind of being that source of information and maybe connecting with people in the community, and then maybe was a natural flow to then run for office? Did you always plan to run for office, or did it
No,
just kind of?
absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I never was into politics. Never. I just didn't even, one, I didn't understand it, and was always, it began to get very toxic from hot levels of
Right.
politics. And because I saw being in the community and being connected, I actually saw what was happening on social media, and I did not like it. In Martin County, we've come a long ways from being trying to be unified. That means working with whether it's the sheriff department, whether it was the commission or the county or whoever it was, we've come a long way to connecting. And what I saw
Yeah.
was a lot of toxic posts, a lot of toxic things happening, whether it was the commissioners, or even was the government. We were having these minds put up, and it's like, wait a minute, this is not right. We're going
Right.
backwards here, and personally, I didn't want that. I didn't see that. And in all honesty, I had interviewed Mr. Collins, Chris, because it was a
Right.
post that he put up a couple of years ago when he just got into the city commission, and it was the zippy, and it's like the community, they're gonna call me, so it's like, wait a minute. I reached out to him and I said, let's sit down and have a coffee and conversation. He accepted. I said, because explain what that meant, because there, that could have, started a whole
Yeah,
fireball,
right,
and I didn't want that. So me reaching out and doing as you do, set had the conversation and let him explain it, his reasoning why it was, and from that,
yeah,
Chris and I are still, I'm not gonna say we're friends. You know what I'm saying? We're associates. I understand him. He understands me. I'm gonna always stay there, stay like that. And when I saw what's happening the wrong way, and it's like, oh no. And then he went from the city to the county. It's like, okay, this is a whole nother level. And I hadn't met Stacy because a lot of things was geared towards her. So I had reached out to her.
right.
Let's have coffee. Let me see what's going on with you. And that's how I ended up sitting down with her and talking to her. And I'm thinking, I just can't let this continue. So it's like, you know what? I tossed and turned for several weeks, and it never left me, Joseph. It never. And it's like, oh God, this is. And I just one day just like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. If I don't do nothing but bring
Good for you.
awareness to bring awareness to what's actually happening. And once I did that and saw it, it's like, oh no, I'm staying in this race. I'm staying in it for more
Yeah,
ways than one. So
you know what,
that's what happened.
that's a great. I think that's a great story because I think you're right too when you had mentioned. I think like social media in general, in a lot of ways, has really
Mhm.
brought discourse backwards in a lot of ways. Like
Mhm.
people aren't having real conversations, people aren't
No.
really listening to each other, and it's all like you had said. It's like these pictures and memes and the just mudslinging everywhere, and it's
Mhm.
less
Mhm.
human than if
Right.
everybody's sitting around a table talking. It's not
Mhm.
gonna You're not gonna have conversations anywhere near what you
Mhm.
see on like a Facebook
Exactly.
feed where people are just so comfortable being
Mhm.
disrespectful
Mhm.
or just saying things that are just at the best it's rude, at the worst it's like they're
Right.
lies and misconceptions. So
Right.
I mean,
Right.
what are your thoughts to you? You've been in the community for a while. What are the biggest issues to you facing Martin County?
Well, we want to talk about issues right now. Of course, affordable housing. Of course, um, where can people actually live and work? And because I've been out there, it was said of years ago that, well, we'll be able to work here but not live here. That stuck with me.
Right.
Like what? And then when I began to, oh, we'll live here, and I mean work here but not live here. That means that we have to come back and work. So no, and just different things I was hearing from powers that be. Because I was always out there, and it's like it's not making sense. But then the more I began to
Right.
understand, oh, that's what you mean. And the more I begin to see how development is and how things actually operate, maneuver, wow, this is really something. And the thing about it, Joseph, of course, I'm African American. People think because I say everyday people, I'm only talking about the African American. But I've sat down in Sewell Point, I've sat down in Lob Library, I've sat down at so many different tables, talked and helped so many different people across the board that they just think that I'm only talking about one class of people, and that's not true. I just don't get on here and tell people's business. Oh, I sat down with so and so and this. No, it's not for me. But it helped me to
Sure.
understand that we're all the same. We're all the same. I mean, I've been unhoused. I've been, of course, you've probably seen a lot of things about me being evicted from, places that, yes, that was a very hard, challenging time in my life 20, 30 years ago. I don't hide from
Right.
that.
Right.
And because I was on social media having coffee and conversation, people needed to see my transparency. Because if you ever went through something, you got people talking about you. They talking about you. They whispering. So why not
Right.
me talk about my own self? You know? So
Yeah.
no one can
Yeah.
hold that over my head that they know something about me and they want to, oh, this is what I know about her. This is what her film. No, I don't give
Yeah.
you I don't give you that control over me.
Yeah, I
So,
think that's a good way to put it. That you know, the worst thing that you could do, I guess,
mhm,
from like a political standpoint, is like, you know, have skeletons in the closet that, you know, you're
mhm,
worried about something or somebody judging you for it or something. You know, it's one thing if something happens to you. It's another thing if like you don't want to take ownership of it, or someone's gonna, like you
right,
said, hold it over your head.
right.
And everybody's got different priorities when it comes to, you know, someone disagrees with you on one topic, and then all of a sudden
Mhm.
that becomes ammo for them, and it's another Facebook post or something.
Right, right. And my thing with my podcast was to always give someone hope, no matter where they are in their life, to give them hope. And that's one thing that I've often tell my children and want to be example for them. I may be down, but you're going to see me get up. You're going to see me brush myself off, accept what I've done, be accountable for it, and get up. That's all it is being transparent, because you we have to give someone hope. We have to leave them we have to
Yeah,
leave this place better than we found it. And I can't leave with not giving others hope, because it adds so much mental strain to someone's life if they don't have a reason to have hope. So
yeah,
that's what
yeah.
it's about.
I think that that's great, especially from a standpoint of. I think that that's a really good point that you make too. Not just with having skeletons in the closet or having something that somebody might hold above your head, but you know, I think about it with my kids too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, going through something, going through adversity, and them watching you come out the other side. You know, and even
Mm-hmm.
from other people's perspective, even if it's not your children, you know, going through a tough
Right.
time, going through things that, yeah, it might not have been perfect, but you
Mhm.
know, you end up coming out the other side, and like you said, providing hope for other people who are watching you do that, especially when it's your own kids. I think
Right.
that's a really good message to have and to carry
Mm-hmm.
into, you know, a candidacy.
Absolutely. That's all I have is lived experience. And one of the things that after I told my children and after I told, my family, they say, "Oh, that's a good idea." They probably thought I was joking, like, "Oh, that's a good idea." But then a week later they said, "But you don't have the money." I wasn't even thinking about money. You know what I'm saying? I just
Right.
know something needed to be done, because we can't continue to go in the same direction, and then when it
Yeah.
comes up,
Yeah.
it, it's just it's crazy, because you know so grassroots we are. I am, and I'm thinking, dang, people spending 200 and $300,000 for a campaign. Well, everyday people don't have that. they
Right.
we
Yeah.
just don't have it, and when you get
Yeah.
something, not saying that having those flyers and mailers are not important, but when you get it in the mail and you read it, what do you do with it? It goes in the
Right.
garbage.
Right.
So for the
Yeah. Well,
everyday
you know,
person, that's
yeah,
money they needed.
yeah, it's right, exactly. It's money you
Mhm,
could have in your pocket, and I think kind
mhm,
of to your point before, you know, a lot of times you get those mailers. You know, don't me wrong. Like sometimes I'll look at them and see it's nice to see
uh-huh,
what people think, but half the mailers nowadays, it's just kind of like, look at this person, and this is what they did
yeah,
bad, and this is why you
yeah,
shouldn't vote for this person, and it's not so much about
mhm,
like, hey, look, this is who I am and this is what I believe. And so
right.
I don't know. Maybe it's just more mudslinging and more just muddying the waters.
Especially these past couple of days. I don't know if you know or read it, where the CPAC, they literally like lied. They
Yeah,
literally like
yeah. I
lied.
wasn't gonna bring it up. I didn't want to put you on the spot by bringing it up, but that was an interesting post, huh? So they had said what that you were
That Chris,
approached
yeah,
about.
Althea didn't
Chris
Chris
Collins
put
approached
you,
you about.
yeah. And Chris
Yeah,
had no idea. I didn't call him and say, "Look, if you don't do this here, I'm going to expose this, or I'm going to expose that." No, it's like he had no idea that I was running. Only my
right,
family and friends knew that I was running. But when I
right.
did post it on social media, I'll never forget. I was up late that Sunday, early Sunday morning, and I went and pressed the button to do it, and I got calls, inboxes, 6 o'clock in the morning. Who put you up to this? Who? What party are you affiliated with? This and that. Okay, hold on. Somebody else is going to call you. I'm thinking, well, what in the world is going on? I had no idea because I wanted to really run for the people and sit at the county seat. I had been to a
Yeah.
couple of meetings. I saw how it was happening, so it's like, no, I'm going to do it, but not even knowing what comes along with that. Was called to meet with them, called to meet at the chambers, called to meet at different other entities, and I just answer those questions just like I'm talking to you, you know. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
it,
Yeah. Hmm.
but at
That
the
that's
same
interesting. Yeah.
uh-huh. At the same time, Joseph, like we and you and I know each other, but at the same time, I recognize some of the faces in those rooms from issues that I've had years ago, even from my home, in Johnson Beach. I'm thinking, oh, part of this here. Oh, you part of that there because remember I was
Right.
already in at tables
Right.
before for the community. So when I'm putting two and two together, I'm thinking, what the heck? But here again, I'm taking you at face value, not knowing that you are the ones actually that like to control.
It is funny because it's some of this stuff where, um, to me personally, maybe I'm wrong about this, but on like
Mm-hmm.
a local level, I don't think people are as concerned with, are you Democrat? Are you Republican? Are you this? Are you that? It really comes down to who you are and the real issues, like, water quality is not really like a
Mm-hmm.
Democrat or Republican thing, or like,
No. Mm-mm.
um, I don't know. It's like, wanting to preserve conservation land, or I don't know, things that,
Mm-mm.
it becomes less of like a divide, but then there's kind of like, to your point, there's maybe mudslinging in other ways, or there's other deceptions or things happening behind the scene. I mean, what are your,
Absolutely, because
what do you,
I, I, I became a Republican almost 20, 21 years ago. Okay. And that was because when I went to vote at my polling precincts, I couldn't. I was turned away. And I could not understand why I could not vote. I'm thinking, I'm registered. And it says, no, this is not your election. So I went to the supervisor election office and said, yeah, you're in a Republican county. And I'm thinking, what? I changed my party then. So
oh, so you
20
could vote in the
years,
primary for them?
bring it to date, it's like,
Yeah.
exactly. But it's not for them, but it was because I didn't want my voice not to be heard. My family,
Right.
my husband knew at the time, but my children just found out and they looked at me like, Mom, what? I said, yeah, see, you didn't even know. But it was for my voice to
Yeah.
be heard. And then I told, she said, okay, I understand now. I understand now. So
Yeah,
see,
that
that's the
that's
thing.
pretty
You
funny because,
live according to who you really are.
right, right. It's funny. I've done the same thing throughout the years. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
switch parties depending on if I wanted to vote someone for in a primary election. It's like I'll switch if I wanted to, make
Mm-hmm.
sure I had a vote in one of the primaries.
Right.
I mean, and like it's
Right.
becoming more of a thing too with just the general growth. Like people are, it's
Mm-hmm.
becoming
Mm-hmm.
more of like especially the county commissioners. It just seems like it's becoming more of it's just a behemoth now. The county elections, the county candidacy, it's
Right.
not as small town feel as it used to feel. Um, I
No.
mean, I'm interested too in your thoughts on the growth and all that kind of stuff too. But
Mm-hmm. You know, I was talking the other day and looking at the dynamics. St. Lucie County, we watched it grow. People came from all over the world in different states to St. Lucie. And those are the people that actually control St. Lucie, but they're all different. Martin County, a lot, we grew up here. We know the dynamics here. And as if we don't stay where we're in control of it right now, when that growth comes, we're not going to have any say. It's going to be people, not
Hmm.
nothing wrong with it, but right now we need to have where we stay in control so it can grow. We can grow with it because we have the next generation that's coming up behind us. We have people that come here, born and raised here, may want to come back to raise a family, may want to come back to retire. So we need to make sure that we grow with the growth that's coming. And that's going to take responsible and slow growth with that because we don't want to get out of hand with the growth and not know how not to not understand how to navigate it.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, kind of to your
You
point
know.
before, how do you see the county playing a role in things like housing affordability, especially if there is growth or if the population starts to grow? I mean, what does the county do with something like that?
Well, one, I'm thinking that we have to have the businesses here to support the growth because growth that's coming now, they're coming from elsewhere. They have jobs or they have silver spoon in their hand and they're coming here, and determine their housing. But if we have the businesses here, then we can grow with it like we did. We had Mark at that time, it was Mark Memorial. We had Grumman, um, the school
Hmm.
system. So we were able to be able to live here and work here. So we need
Right.
more business here. First, we need to take care of the small business that are here, and then we can allow. I'm saying out allow, but have business come in that can support the Martin County, support Martin County. Because
You know,
without the
so what do you
business and
think? I mean,
without
no, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you. I didn't hear you talking.
no, I'm just saying without the revenue here, then how can we support Martin County? We have an awesome now, and I we have an awesome sheriff department here that actually people know if they coming through Martin County, they know, look, you either get off this exit and you live right, you act right, you come in here for a reason, or you not. And that
Right.
is what Martin County is about. So we not only have to have um, the wrong exit to get off, but we also have to have the right exit to get in, come in, so that you are welcome. You are actually feel that this county is where you belong and not just for a selective few. If I come to
I
your
like
home,
that.
I already know how your home is because the environment is going to dictate how I behave, and
Right.
that's
Right.
what this
Yeah.
county is.
You know,
Hmm.
I like that. I like that
I
right
hope that makes
exit
sense.
kind of. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, because it is interesting. You know, obviously,
Yeah.
you do want to kind of incentivize the right type of, especially when it comes to businesses or people moving into the area. You know, people who
Right.
understand what
Exactly.
Martin County is. You know what we embody, and
Mm-hmm.
people who are, if you've been here for, I'm also born and raised in Martin County, and it's also like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is interesting now with just the amount of, I mean, I don't know how kids, if you're graduating from high school, you're the thought of buying a home in Martin County for these young kids. It's got to be wild,
Yeah.
So it's like
Yes.
it's kind of always that balance of trying to
Right.
make sure you're keeping that same character while also, you know,
Mm-hmm.
preparing, like you said, preparing that environment for the next generation and for people coming here.
Right. Exactly. 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 So yeah.
Well, let me tell you, or let me ask you before we, because we're getting, that went by pretty quick, but we're getting close to the end. But I wanted to ask you, what do you think your top
Okay.
three priorities would be if you're elected? What do you think your top three things would be? I mean, obviously we've talked about housing. I mean, I imagine that would be up there. But what would your priorities be?
Mhm.
As a commissioner.
My my first priority. is to make sure I understand the government. I understand what the job is as a commissioner. Not from somebody saying, I have like hundreds of things that are at me every day. You don't know this, but it's to sit to really understand how this government and the county seat is ran, and also to make sure that I understand the need of the people, meaning whether it's Palm City, Jupiter Island, Jensen, Stewart, East Stewart, Hope Sound, make sure I understand those needs, and especially in District 2, because it's not just East Stewart, it's also Stewart as a whole. So what is the need as the that I can help and understand, and also how my decision in the vote, when it comes to voting, that I make sure I look at the whole dynamic of it. That is one for me. And the other is to also,
Yeah.
we need to see where the money is, how it's being spent, what's needed, what's not needed, how we can cut back, or if we need to cut back. And I know that I'm learning that Tallahassee has a lot to say in different things, but how much of that can we stay in control?
Right.
How much of that can we actually stay in control and say, you know what, let's work together to make sure that since we live here, not Tallahassee, since we live here, how can we make sure we protect the residents in the county, you know? And understanding as much as I can, you know, especially I know that the growth is an issue in the AI, but the bigger one is the bright line. Bright line has its good and its
Yeah.
bad too, but I want to make sure that the bad is not, the residents don't have to pay for the bad.
Right. That seems to be the main disconnect there is, I mean,
Right.
just like anything, I guess, of course, if
Hmm.
money was not an issue, there's a lot of things that could be on the docket. So it's kind of who's going to pay for something is always
Exactly.
going to be top of
Exactly.
mind, if especially if you're growing like we are.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And also making sure that the residents be able to come to the meeting, because one thing about the county commissions meetings, they're in the morning. So who's able
Mm.
to be at those meetings in the morning? Not the everyday people a lot, because they have to
Right.
work. You have the retired ones, you have the ones that have the special interest that's there. So is there a way that we can have where the everyday people are able to come to those meetings and actually have an understanding, and decisions are not just made around them, but actually for them?
Yeah, I think that that's a good point as well. And Althea, really, I appreciate you being on, and I'm glad that we were able to have this conversation. And maybe we can link up sometime and grab a coffee and talk, because it really it's been
Absolutely.
That's a wrap for this episode of The Current by TreasureCoast.com. If you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Follow us on social media or visit TreasureCoast.com for local events, tips, and news. Have a guest or topic you'd love to hear on the show? Let us know at TreasureCoast.com. Until next time,